This week on Fireside News, a raccoon gets his owner arrested not once but twice. A woman in Switzerland commits the most wholesome crime ever, catnapping through kindness. And Larry David sits down with a beetle, only to ask if he's ever taken a punch to the mouth. Spoiler, Paul McCartney has, and he loved it. Ozzy says he's retiring for real this time. The Gallagher brothers are back separately. And somewhere out there, E.T. was low-key trying to flirt with Elliot's mom. Spielberg had to tone it down a little bit. And if that's not weird enough for you, hang out till the very end. We got a surprise twist that might make your week, or at least confuse your taste buds. Let's get into the stories you didn't know you needed. It's Fireside News, and it's starting now. So police in Ohio pulled over this woman on a routine traffic stop. She got a suspended license and an outstanding warrant, but that's not why the story made the news this week. No, the honor goes to her passenger, a raccoon named Chewy. While the officer was cuffing her, Chewy casually reached for a pipe in the front seat of the car, like he's chilling on break from his late shift at the Waffle House, you know? A cop sees it, does a double take, starts laughing about it because, yeah, even he thought he was hallucinating. And then after they take the first pipe away from the raccoon, Chewy went and grabbed a second pipe, like, hey, no worries, I brought a backup. The lady gets hit with felony charges, and Chewy's just sitting there like, y'all done? Or can I take another bump? This is real. A reporter even called the cops thinking it was fake, and the department was like, no, ma'am, it's definitely real. So congrats, Chewy. You're the only raccoon in history to get your own owner arrested twice, once for a warrant and once for being the worst drug mule in North America. Damn trash panda. So apparently Google tracked what kids are searching about adults, and I'm going to tell you, we're not coming out looking good. Here are the top trending questions right now. Why are adults so mean? Followed by why are adults so stupid? Why are adults always tired? Would you like to know? And the most brutal one of all, why are adults obsessed with Disney? Okay, first off, little Timmy, I'm tired because I worked 40 hours a week, paid $6 for gas, and just found out my health insurance doesn't cover feelings. And yeah, I like Disney. You know why? Because for 90 minutes, a cartoon mouse reminds me I don't have to file taxes. The list is basically every millennial and Gen X existential crisis, but coming from the mouths of tiny gremlins with unlimited iPad time, right? Honestly, I'd be offended if they weren't kind of mean. I mean, if aliens judge humanity by our search history, they'd think adults cry, eat snacks, and binge cartoons while yelling at slow left lane drivers. Anyways, if you hear your kid whispering into a tablet, just know it's probably asking Google, why do adults breathe so loud? So in Switzerland, a 68-year-old woman's in trouble for doing something criminally adorable, feeding her neighbor's cat. Yeah, that's it. That's the crime. She gave a few snacks to an orange tabby named Leo and then let him inside the house and then installed a little cat door so he can come and go whenever he pleased, right? Kind of like a furry Airbnb guest. Well, Leo liked the setup so much that he stopped going home, which is when the real crime kicks in. Under Swiss law, if you feed and house someone else's cat long enough, it's considered unlawful appropriation. In other words, she catnapped him through love and snacks. So now she's facing over $5,000 in fines for being too good at pet sitting. This is like getting arrested for letting a friend's dog sleep over and accidentally teaching it to love you more. It's the reverse of every dating app. Sorry I got ghosted by a cat I didn't even own. But moral of the story, if it meows and it isn't yours, don't feed it, don't pet it, and definitely don't install a custom entry system in your home because that's how you end up in Swiss court, explaining why a cat named Leo has squatter's rights. All right, here's one of those stories that start off creepy and end extremely wholesome. Are you ready? A woman in North Carolina is in her car and a random guy pulls up next to her and he's looking at her bumper sticker and leans out the window and says, "Hey, you stop for goats?" Yeah, she had an "I brake for goats" sticker on her car. Well, at this point, she's like, great, I'm about to get abducted by a farm-themed weirdo, right? But instead of pulling out a pitchfork, he jumps out in the back of his truck and boom, he's got a full load of baby goats, like a dozen tiny, fluffy chaos nuggets just chilling in the bed of his pickup. It turns out he saw her sticker and just wanted to make her day. And it worked. She filmed the whole thing, it went viral, and the internet decided this guy is either the nicest stranger alive or aggressively single in a really weird way. But either way, the moral is clear. Not all weird guys in parking lots are creeps. Some just come bearing baby goats. And honestly, those are the only men I would trust these days. You You ever feel like your grandma could still kick some ass if she had to? Well, meet 71-year-old Yvette Ferguson, who just broke a world record for the oldest person ever set on fire for a movie. It's not a prank or a flashback scene. She actually gets lit up in the opening of the new Final Destination Bloodlines movie, and she crushed it. This woman came out of retirement just to be burned up to a crisp for a horror flick. That's what dedication, if you ask me. The scene ends, and apparently the whole crew broke into applause like it was the Olympics or something. One actress on set called it beautiful. I'm not sure beautiful is the word I'd use for someone getting flamethrowed to death, but hey, it's Hollywood. Let's be honest though, I pulled a muscle last week grabbing the remote too fast. And meanwhile Yvette's over here doing full burn stunts in her 70s. It's equal parts inspiring and mildly shaming. So if you need a little motivation or a reason to stop saying, hey, I'm too old for this, remember, you're never too old to light yourself on fire and make a comeback. Metaphorically, of course. Please don't try this at home. All right, so picture this. You're at a fancy dinner for the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. You're Larry David. You see Paul frickin' McCartney sitting across the table, and you have one shot to ask a Beatle anything. Most people would go deep, right? Like, how did you write Hey Jude? Or what was it like touring with John Lennon? Larry David? No, not so much. He just leans in and says, hey man, you ever been punched in the face? Paul, because he's a champ, just laughs and goes, yeah, I headbutted when I was 13 or 14. Totally casual. Like he's talking about getting bumped in a grocery store, not a teenage Glasgow kiss, Dana Carvey and David Spade were sitting right there, and they said Paul loved it. Dude was cracking up. I guess when you had 4 decades of journalists asking you the same 5 questions, getting asked if you've ever taken a right hook is kind of a refreshing change of pace, The whole thing is peak Larry David, too. It's awkward, it's weird, it's unfiltered, and absolutely hilarious. Also makes you wonder, what would you ask a rock legend if you had one shot? Sound off in the comments. Everyone gather round and bow your heads because Skype is officially dead. Yeah, Microsoft pulled the plug this past week after 22 years of frozen faces, dropped audio, and that weird ringtone that kind of made your stomach drop if you weren't camera ready, Skype walked so Zoom could run, or let's be honest, so Zoom could steal all of its friends during the pandemic and leave it for dead. Microsoft bought Skype in 2011 for $8.5 billion. Yeah, that's billion with a B. Back when people thought video calls were the future and not just the thing that makes you realize how awkward you look blinking, right? At one point, Skype had 150 million monthly users, but after COVID hit, Zoom came in like a wrecking ball and Skype went the way of MySpace and Blockbuster. Now Microsoft is telling everyone to just use Teams, which is somehow worse. If you still have old Skype messages or embarrassing screenshots, you got until the end of the year to save them. But after that, poof! They're going to Kaiser Sose your ass. They're going to be gone, okay? So here's to you, Skype. You're laggy, glitchy, and always made me sound like I was underwater. But dang it, you tried. The Gallagher brothers from Oasis are getting the band back together for a reunion tour, which sounds awesome until you find out they're going full kindergarten rules. Separate snacks, separate nap times, and no touching. Apparently, they're being completely kept apart backstage. Separate dressing rooms, separate VIP guest lists, separate everything. And not even allowed to fist bump before Wonderwall, which is a shame. The only time Liam and Noel are going to see each other when they're on stage. That's it. It's like musical court-ordered visitation. Liam even jumped on X to clear things up. He goes, after parties are for wankers. I'm going straight to bed after the gigs to get my beauty sleep. Because that's what rock stars do, apparently. Drink chamomile tea and go night-night, The whole thing is just so Oasis. You can't do a world tour without throwing in some drama, right? These guys have been feuding longer than some of us have been alive. I swear, they only tour so they could passively aggressively roast each other on social media in new time zones. Honestly, the tension might be half the reason people buy tickets. Forget the set list. I just want to see if one of them storms off before the encore or they get in a big fist fight on stage, which would be pretty rad. He wasn't as innocent as you think he was. Somewhere in that supposedly pure heart of his was lust. And lust for Elliot's mother, Mary. Dee Wallace played Elliot's mom, and she remembers having to pull Steven Spielberg back from a slightly naughty subplot they had going on, saying, quote, there's a whole B story in E.T. about E.T. having a love affair with Mary, a love crush on Mary, and there's little bits of it left in there. She said there was a scene where he came in to put Reese's Pieces down by the bedside table as she was asleep, and she said, well, Mr. Spielberg wanted the sheet a little lower than I was comfortable with. Dee thought the scene was a little much for a family film, so after talking with screenwriter Melissa Matheson and the producer Kathleen Kennedy, they figured out a little compromise. She said, quote, "We pulled the sheet up almost to my shoulder blades, which I was okay with." Dee says that she knew early on that E.T. would be a hit, saying, quote, "I could just tell the way the audience responded. That film reaches into your soul, into your heart. It surpasses some block that we have and wakes us up." Yeah, so E.T. wanted to get it on with Elliot's mom, huh? There is a secret menu item at McDonald's, but before you get too excited, it's probably not for everyone. It's a cotton candy Sprite. Have you heard about this? Yeah, you might not be able to order it by that name, but it's pretty easy. You just order a Sprite, and then you ask them to add 3 pumps of French vanilla syrup. Pretty much everyone who tries it says it does taste like cotton candy. It also sounds ridiculously sweet if you're asking me, but this hack has been floating around TikTok and social media for a little while, but now some big websites are covering it, so it's going viral a little bit. And a lot of custom stuff like this, you have to order it in person because there isn't an option to order it online or through their app. So you got to schmooze with the person behind the counter a little bit. And McDonald's hasn't commented on it being an actual secret menu item, but you can still try it. Give it a shot. Let me know how it tastes. Cotton candy Sprite from Mickey D's. Rock stars almost never stick to their retirement promises, but Ozzy Osbourne says that's not the case with him. He's holding fast to his pledge to hang it up after his big show coming up on July 5th. He said, quote, "I'd love to say never, but after 6 years or so, it's time. I've lived on the road for 50 odd years. I've been kind of got used to not picking up my bags and getting on the bus again." Sorry, that's my Ozzy Osbourne impersonation. Pretty good, huh? "I don't smoke dope or do any other rock star lifestyle anymore. I'm kind of like a homebody. I never go out. I never hang out in bars. I don't drink. So what the F is out there for me?" Yeah, Ozzy says he wanted to spend the rest of his life with his family, including his grandkids, saying, quote, "I don't want to die in a hotel room somewhere," right? He's been pretty outspoken in his debilitating battle with Parkinson's disease, saying, quote, "You wake up in the morning and find that something else is going wrong. You begin to think this is never going to end." For that reason, he can't perform a full set at his final show. He'll only be on stage for a few songs with the boys of Black Sabbath and a few of his solo band members, too. And he's most likely going to be sitting during the show. But Ozzy Osbourne says he's really going to retire after July's show. You know, back in '05, it was kind of a big deal to be hot and tan, right? Someone asked the internet, what's something that's sexy now that wasn't 20 years ago? And there's actually an uplifting body positivity theme. Most popular responses include eyebrows that aren't pencil thin, followed by lack of a tan. This person said it used to be almost everyone went to tanning salons, and not being tan somehow lowered your attractiveness. Lack of tattoos, in addition to having tattoos. 50-year-olds. Yeah, this person said 20 years ago, when people turned 50, they looked like they should be on the Golden Girls. Today, 50 looks like the new 30. Bald guys with beards made the list. Also, muscular women. Long hair on dudes on the list. Smaller chested women, as opposed to big fake jugs, I guess. Bigger chested men, specifically dad bods. Sweatpants with elastic around the ankles that weren't hot 20 years ago. I guess they're hot now. An 800 credit score. Good luck with that one. Critical thinking skills and emotional maturity is something that's hot these days. Being vegan, or at least being as healthy as you can be. And having 0 posts on social media, also pretty hot nowadays. Yeah, something that's sexy now that wasn't 20 years ago. Sound off in the comments. Well, if that didn't make your week at least 10% weirder, you might need to watch it again. Remember, we're here every Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific, same vibe, new chaos. Drop a comment if something made you laugh, cringe, or question reality. And if you had fun, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss next week's nonsense. Until then, stay curious, stay weird, and maybe don't let your pet raccoon grab your pipe. We'll see you next week on Fireside News.